to the booth here at Mythic Championship 4 from Barcelona, Spain. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon. This is one of the most exciting times of any Mythic Championship. This is where we cut to our top 8. The last round of Swiss with everything on the line for our players in the feature match area on our main table. You see Jelger Wiegersma from the Netherlands. He's playing Hogaak for Team Good Luck High Five. And Jelger's a Hall of Famer. It should be noted. On the other side of the table, Juan José Rodríguez López from Spain playing Mono Red Phoenix. Now, these players do not have the same record as each other, but effectively it is. It's 11-3-1 for Juan versus 12-3 for Jelger. We're looking into winning in here for top 8.
Yeah, whoever wins this definitely gets in. And Jelger was the unfortunate person to get kind of pared down against Juan José, who absolutely has to play and win. The rest of the players who are sitting at 12-3 were able to intentionally draw into the top 8. So Jelger, we did see that time walk match. We thought he might have been locked for the top 8, but now he's going to have to play it out.
He's going to have to earn it the good old-fashioned way. I don't think Jelger will have any problem with that.
Of course.
And we're going to get underway here. He is playing Hogaak, and as you can see, turboing his graveyard here with 2 copies of Stitcher's Supplier. What did he hit? He hit a Vengevine?
He hit a Vengevine, and I'm pretty sure he just has Hogaak in his hand.
Oh boy, this could get very ugly. Of course, casting Hogaak
Look at this
will
draw.
trigger Vengevine as well, thanks to the Stitcher's Supplier he already cast.
And Jelger thinking about the potential of Lava Dart and deciding whether or not he wants to just run it out right now.
So he could open up the door for an instant speed way to kill kill 2 of the creatures and not have the ability to pay the colored mana for the Convoke.
Right. So that's what he's scared of right now, because he basically, if he just plays Hogaak against Mono Red Phoenix, it's really hard to lose. I mean, turn 2 Hogaak with the Vengevine in play. I mean, this game is basically just over.
This is incredible. This is turn 2, everybody at home. That's 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 power.
Yeah, but maybe Juan has like a lightning bolt or something. Right? Oh, no lightning bolts.
He has a mountain on the battlefield against 16 power. This is unbelievable. Jelger says, I will allow you to cast a Manamorphose. It is going to take so much more than that, especially given that Juan has decided to sleeve up Mono Red Phoenix, so it doesn't even have access to cards like Thing in the Ice to help reset the board. This is just done.
Yeah, this is just over.
Let me get to something here. There we go.
Yeah, he's just running the spell count here to see if he can piece together enough Arclight Phoenixes, but even then, that is just not going to be enough.
The perfect draw from Jelger has given him a dominating board presence here in the first game. He's on the play, and on turn 2 had 16 power and was like, go ahead, Lightning Bolt guy.
I mean, playing for your win in and into the top 8, what a way to start. And it looked like Juan had a perfectly reasonable hand. I mean, I saw a Lightning Bolt. There was a gut shot with some lava spikes, you know.
It looks so underpowered compared to what Jelger just did.
Right.
And I agree with you. It's totally reasonable hand. By normal standards, but not by Hogaak standards.
Yeah, Jelger had a totally unreasonable hand.
Unreasonable hand, agreed. Juan is down to 16 life, but next turn, his life total is going to come crashing down. And the turn after that, if he hasn't won the game, it's going to be over.
Right.
I'll tell you what, because blocking, not really the name of the game for the Mono Red Phoenix deck.
We've got a Swift Spear, folks. We've got a Monastery Swift Spear, a defensive Monastery Swift Spear on turn 2.
Yep.
It's hard to attack through an 8/8 Trampler.
While being tapped out.
Yeah. He's got 4 cards in graveyard, though.
Well, first things first for Jelger. It's time to turn everything sideways. Both hands, everything into the red zone, and he's slamming. He just took a quick option on leaving back a Stitcher's Supplier, but he said, no, 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 no. I'm at 19.
Yeah, no reason not to here.
Right, and the Stitcher's Supplier dying, not a bad thing either. Could fill up his yard for more potential shenanigans.
And this is
15? This puts him to 1? Is that? No, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15.
15 damage. One is now down to 1. Can't run out the gut shot anymore. He has to cast it the hard way.
Yeah, he does. Well, I said it was going to take 2 turns. I almost misestimated. It was almost 1 turn. The good news for Juan, though, is that he runs 15 mountain and 3 sun-baked canyon, no fetch land, so at least he doesn't have to deal with that. But this all seems like a moot point because we see Jelger dominating this game.
Yeah, does Jelger maybe have two creatures to play this turn? If he does, he can return a Vengevine from the graveyard to play. Yeah, he has a Gravecrawler in the graveyard. He can just cast that, meaning that he can put a Vengevine in play and have that as a chump blocker in case somehow Juan pieces together enough spells to get in for a lethal attack with the Monastery Swiftspear.
So he's got a solid insurance plan on his already high 18 points of life, facing down just 1 creature. Draw set for Juan, and we're going to see him pack it up. That is game number 1 going to Jelger Wiegersma. And boy, he couldn't have drawn it up any better than that, Paul. That was absolute perfection from the Hall of Famer. Get gacked?
Get gacked.
That was brutal.
I'll tell you this, that's definitely not the first time that that's happened over the course of this
Yeah,
tournament.
that of course is one of the big appeals to this deck. It's not just the fact that it can do the thing and win so much, but you know, we call those free wins, right? The type of draw that you can get where your opponent really just can't interact in any reasonable way. And even if that doesn't happen the majority of the time, getting those free wins while still having a reasonable backup plan is a great attribute for any deck.
Not only does it have the potential for those ridiculous starts, it also has just extreme resilience because a lot of your creatures just come back from the graveyard.
That's right. Okay, we're going to take a breather here. That was fast and furious, but we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more live action here from Barcelona. Don't you go anywhere.
I'm here with Corey Baumeister of Team KMC Genesis. Currently, you guys are ranked 5th in the team series.
Yes.
You got 103 points, a little ways off the 2 front runners, but definitely still with a chance. But you guys seem to be playing kind of on hard mode for this Mythic Championship.
Yeah, this is not going to be the easiest one. We are playing a man down. My brother did so well at the last Mythic Championships. He's like, I'm going to stay home and skip this one. It's modern, not my specialty. No, not really. He would have loved to have been here, but yeah, no Brad this time.
Yeah, a couple of little travel issues means that your team's just going to be 5 players. Yourself, who are the other 4 that we're going to be looking out for?
Me, Brian Braun-Duin, Shahar Shenhar, Seth Manfield, and then Logan Nettles.
Fantastic stuff. Now, I know that a lot of the time when people talk about your team, they talk about how great you guys are at tuning decks, refining decks, and often that gets kind of characterized as standard decks.
Yes.
But we've got modern going on here. How's your testing been?
It's been really good. I think we identified some of the holes in modern and really adapted to give ourselves at least the best game 1 chance to do well with main deck ley lines here in a Hogaak metagame. So I really like where our deck's at. I think we played a ton of Modern Horizon. We have some insane limited players on our team. You know, I mean, we've been testing with Ultimate Guard as well, and I mean, I've been just watching Huey and Reed draft and stuff like that, and I think we're doing pretty well.
A nice spot to be in. Obviously, a lot of pressure on this last one in the season. I'm sure that you guys would love to find yourselves in the final of the team series.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Vegas, right? Vegas is nice. I would love to be able to make it there, so we're going to try our best.
And no flight issues for that one. So the 5 of you are going to have to be putting something together for Brad, who I'm sure is going to be watching on at home. A little jealous, but rooting you guys on.
Yeah, if he doesn't make it to Vegas, come on. I mean...
Lovely stuff. Best of luck to Team KMC Genesis here at Mythic Championship 4.
And welcome back to the booth here in Barcelona, Spain. Yeah,
so that was game 1.
That was game number 1, and that ended very, very quickly. If things go well for Jelger, that will happen again in either this game or the next. And goodness sakes, for the local player, Juan, hopefully it doesn't quite go that brutally for him. At least he'll get to play a little bit of Magic here in his decider. Again, both of our players in the feature match area are playing for top 8. If Jelger loses, he's technically still in the scrum. If Adriano Moscato wins his match against Jiying Zhang, there's a lot in the air right now down in the feature match area. We'll know a lot more as the results come in from the side tables, but for now, that's Christian Hauck playing against Ben Whites. Now, both of these players are also on 11-4 for their record. Again, if Adriano Moscato loses, they aren't playing for top 8 at all, not even a chance.
Right.
Now, don't get it twisted. It matters, right? A win here and finishing with that 12-4 record as it would be is a big deal. It represents a deep cash finish here at the Mythic Championship and the potential to run things back again. So these players still have a lot to play for. And if Moscato does win, it is not impossible that they could make the top 8.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Christian Hogaak is part of the MPL, and every Mythic point you pick up is extremely important for qualification into the World Championships.
Oh, he's scrapping it out for those, no doubt about it. Ben wins game number 1, as we saw, and there it is. Turbo Hogaak. This is the crab version. So Hedron Crab on the battlefield here for Ben.
Yeah, one of the downsides, though, of playing something like a Hedron Crab, it is very good at turbo milling yourself, but you cannot use it to cast the Hogaak. The colored mana required to cast Hogaak is either green or black. And because Hedron Crab is blue, you can't use it there. So, you know, again, another way to make your deck a little more redundant to fill up your yard, but not the ideal creature to help with the Hogaak.
It's a little weird, man. You know, talking to some of the pros and kind of having discussions about the metagame, I really felt like Tron had fallen a lot. It didn't really get a whole lot new, and it's considered perhaps just a little too slow to fight Hogaak, not quite enough interaction. We've already got one Tron player in the top 8, and Christian Hogaak here at the top tables, you know, technically with a chance at it, but even then, just a really solid finish for him regardless of how this comes out. Yeah,
I mean, keep in mind, Hogaak was the most popular deck coming into this event, but it still wasn't the only deck, right? It was still just 22% of the field. There's still a lot of decks, and you can still just dodge the Hogaak decks, right? And also, there are just times where they don't get 14 power on turn 2. You get your Tron on turn 3. You play Wormcoil Engine. You play Ogun. There's still a chance. You know, if you do get a very good draw, and they don't have their top, you know, 20% of their draws, you can still win games. And, you know, Tron is still just a very powerful deck, and it still benefits largely from this new London Mulligan. And that's part of the reason why we've still seen Tron have success at this event.
Yeah, that London Mulligan helping out with Tron significantly. We have to go back to London when people first started experimenting with that, but we did see great success there, so perhaps still riding that wave, even if it didn't get anything particular from Modern Horizons to turbo it out.
Wow,
what is going on here?
Assassin's Trophy was so big out of Ben targeting one of the Urza lands, because Christian was set to have Tron on turn 3.
He nabbed a power plant with it, though it doesn't look like he had the follow-up surgical extraction. I have seen that combo deployed today.
I've seen many people just concede to that. Just like, I don't want to play if I can't actually get Tron. Come on.
Well, now Christian has the foil to that anyway with Relic of Progenitus. And yeah, you were right. Boy, Tron was about to be online.
And Christian now has the ability to sacrifice the Relic of Progenitus when he deems it worthy to do so.
Yeah, normally they will leave up the Relic of Progenitus to just use the activated ability and target themselves. But Christian, you know, trying to keep as many, I'm going to call them mana sources, away from Ben White's as possible and start chewing away at that graveyard, just trying to defend against a potential Hogaak.
Yeah, but again, because the crab is not green
blue
or black, this is still not scary. The time to be concerned is if Ben tries to run out a second green or black creature, because then he can run a Hogaak out from his hand. So if he sees that, he might then respond by exiling Ben's graveyard so that he can't delve out the Hogaak.
Well, he is going to run out. Well, first off, let's mill.
Yeah, so now there's a Hogaak.
He does have another creature.
There's a Hogaak in the graveyard here. So now I imagine the response, if Ben chooses to play out a green or black creature, will be Christian sacrificing that Relic of Progenitus to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and Ben does have a Satyr Wayfinder in his hand, so he can force that issue, and it looks like that's what his plan is here.
But Ben will have the ability to kind of rebuild the graveyard. He does have that Hedron Crab in play, and he will, and Christian actually will need, oh, look at this. Ben is just milling Christian.
He knows he's going to lose the graveyard anyway.
He's getting relicked anyways here.
Just mize him a little.
Right.
Sure.
Maybe he hits 3 Tron lands in a row of the same type.
Sure, or, you know, he just wants to make sure that he doesn't just mill a bunch of valuable, you know, Hogaaks or whatever and lose them. He does need those as a resource later on.
Right.
Okay, so here's the issue being forced. But as you said, the trigger on the stack now, boom, boom, and boom. And look at that. Graveyard already being rebuilt with the Vengevine.
but not, the immediate threat has been dealt with. Relic of Progenitus is definitely a card you're going to see in the main deck of these Tron decks, 3 to 4 copies. And now Christian has a little bit of breathing room. If you can find Tron,
which he has,
he
just peeled another power
then
plant,
he can
so
start.
he's got it.
He can start overwhelming. He can start outpowering the Hogaak deck. I mean, Ulamog is a 10/10, bigger than an 8/8.
Yeah. I mean, Tron is supposed to be the big deck, right? That's the one that does the biggest, splashiest stuff. Unfortunately, at least from what I can see here, let's try to take a look at what he's got going on. Yeah, I don't really see any of the traditional big hitters at the ready here for Christian. Do you?
It looks like he has an Oblivion Stone.
Yeah, I see that. But nothing, super proactive.
No, there's an Ulamog on the bottom. I recognize that arm anywhere.
Utamog? Yeah.
Those blue claws.
That'll have to wait till next turn.
That'll have to wait. But he's got that. But he has the option to just run out Oblivion Stone and just threaten to sacrifice it at any time. And he might just do that and just not even play out the star in case, he's concerned about a lot of Vengevines. Yep.
Oblivion Stone for Christian. Christian's up against it here. Ben White's having taken down game 1. Looking to seal the deal here and lock in.
He's got to run out the Thoughtseize for sure.
Yeah. And that's what he's going to do. So we'll see.
And that's
the big
big.
boy gone. Yeah, that was the big game plan here for Christian Hauck was I want to cast Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, next turn. And that is no longer on the table.
Yeah. Definitely taking the Ulamog that's going to be cast next turn, which will now buy maybe Ben a little bit of time to try to apply some pressure here. But Christian, he has a lot of ways to cycle through his deck. He's got the 4 copies of the Chromatic Star. They often also play a bunch of spheres. Relic also cycles. Ben filling up the graveyard here.
Little bit here, a little bit there. There's a Blood Gas. He's got a Vengevine in the yard already. He's got one in his hand. He could put more in there. That was a Bloodstained Mire that he played, and that Hedron Crab doing good things.
Yeah, and the important thing about the Relic Progenitus, even though it's not the end-all be-all, it just buys you so much time. Because, yes, Ben's deck is very capable of just rebuilding, but still, now Christian, is sitting at 20, and he doesn't have to worry about a Hogaak, at least for a little bit. And he just has, 2 to 3 additional turns, and that's all really the Tron deck needs to try to dig and find one of their big game-winning cards. I wonder if this is finally enough. Okay, Christian definitely just taking 2 here. But curious to see if this is enough, end of turn, if Christian will sacrifice the Oblivion Stone, then just run out the Relic of Progenitus and exile the graveyard. Because that's a lot of cards.
That's a lot, yeah. That gets him quite a bit. Also, the Hedron Crab just sitting there, annoyingly refilling the yard from Ben.
Yep, and he's going to go for that here. And there's not even a threat of Blood Gas coming back in because there is no active fetch land.
That's right. And these extra 3 cards from the Citrus Supplier are just more value here for Christian Hauck. He gets to restart Ben White's again.
Ooh, this relic, I mean, so many cards.
And it's a card, too. He might find something huge to cast here as well.
Yeah,
okay, he didn't.
Christian firmly in the lead here. He's such a huge favorite from now on. He's got Tron. He's sitting at a comfortable 18 life. Ben only has 3 cards in hand.
He is flooding a bit, but yeah, but he's got to find something.
He's so likely to find something. I mean, Ben will be able to just hard cast Vengevine next turn, get in for 4. That is a reasonable clock. Christian does have access to a lot of mana now. He can choose to sack the expedition map, maybe find a blast zone if he feels like he's not going to find an answer in time instead of something like a Sanctum of Ugin.
It's a lot of cards, by the way.
Yeah.
Just a handful. And that's what Christian is doing. By process of elimination, he's figuring out how many of the key graveyard cards, the Hogaaks, the other Vengevines, that kind of thing, could be left.
You know, one thing to also consider is, I mean, there's a Ghost Quarter in Christian Hauk's
I
hand.
just saw that too, Paul.
And, you know, one thing he could be thinking about is, hey, you know what? How can I lose here? Maybe if he just hard casts a Vengevine, that could be an avenue that could be a road for me to lose. So maybe, you know, if he knows the deck lists by heart, I mean, a lot of decks have slightly different variations on the numbers, but of course, players having access to deck lists, that might be something that he was keeping track of. And, you know, if Ben has already milled maybe the one forest in his deck, it is a consideration to use Ghost Quarter on Overgrown Tomb so that Ben can't hardcast the Vengevine.
I think that is what he was looking through that graveyard for, Paul. It looks like he's decided that he cannot cut him off of green mana fully, so he's going to let him go. There's Steam Vents for Ben White's, and he's just going to hardcast Vengevine. This is just good old-fashioned Magic here, attacking for 4 damage. It is a clock, though, again, you have to figure that Christian will find his way out. There's another card that gets him another card, so it's another relic. He feels like he's kind of got to just start cycling these, though, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure. He's just going to run out the relic and just cycle and see if he can find something, you know, Worm Coil Engine, Karn, Ugin, any of those cards.
Yeah, that was what he was doing, by the way, Paul. You saw he kind of paused on the lands.
Yep.
Now he's pausing for something else. All right, get back underway.
He also has the option of just using all his mana and putting 3 additional counters on the Blast Zone to get that Vengevine off the battlefield at some point.
Yeah, he could set that up and then try to get the relic. All right, he's going for it now. It looks like he recounted. I saw he paused on the Gemstone Mine as a potential green source. Let's see if Ben does have.
And it's even less likely that Ben has basics because Ben has a lot of basics because he's also stretched his mana base to fit Hedron Crabs into his deck.
Great point.
So it's really hard to fit lots of basics into your deck.
As it turns, he has a swamp.
Okay,
That's
so not even a forest. So
no, and he didn't have one in his deck. It was already in the yard or exiled. So
I mean, I'm not sure how this is going to end, but I'm wondering if Christian is kind of wishing that he ran out the Ghost Quarter the previous turn to prevent a potential Vengevine from being cast.
Yeah, now he has to deal with this with the Vengevine some other way because his life total is going to get hit. But again, it's not going to take much from Christian here to get it rolling. It looks like our main match is just ready to go, so we're going to head there in just a second. But let's see if Christian finds anything with this draw step. Especially if he uses the relic, that will be 2-card scene.
Yeah, so I think we're going to see probably a Blast Zone.
He's just going to take out the Gravecrawler and the Carrion Feeder and then use the relic, perhaps?
Yes, that's what makes the most sense here. Holding just all Tron lands. Because otherwise, Ben can... Oh, look, he's going to 4 instead because Ben has the option of sacking Gravecrawler, replaying it. What was it?
That was Ugin, the Spirit Dragon, off the top of the library for Christian Hauk, and that is exactly the card that he wanted to see. He can -4 that to wipe the board and cruise to victory. Why don't we head back to our main match. We'll confirm that Christian has won that if that does occur, but I like his chances with that Ugin. He just needed to find something like that. That should be GG
just
for
Tron
that
things.
one.
We've seen Jelger do Hogaak things, and we've now seen Christian just do Tron things. And to be fair, he did cycle through 4 or 5 additional cards, and that's just kind of what the deck is, what the deck does. It just kind of has that sense of inevitability.
All right, Soulscar Mage to kick things off here for Juan José Rodríguez López.
Did he mulligan? How many cards is
my goodness. I think he maybe went to 5, 1, 2.
Maybe 6.
6. He looks like he's on 6, yep. Carrion Feeder for Jelger. No, it's not that scary. What's the worst thing that could happen?
Sunbaked Canyon, an excellent addition to all the aggressive red strategies.
What are we calling them? Canopy lands?
You can call them whatever you want.
I call them
canopy lands.
Yeah.
We can go with canopy lands. And yeah, definitely a huge addition to not only this deck, but of course also the burn decks in the format. Being able to cash in your mountains for spells in the late game, because it always just comes down to when you're playing against burn or burn variants, it always just comes down to that last card that they top deck. It's like, well, I'm at 3. Am I going to draw this or not? And having access to these lands just helps this deck go a long way, because now it has access to up to 8 of these lands.
Chat has decided it's Horizon lands.
Horizon lands.
Yeah. And since Chat is so rarely wrong, we're going to go with that.
I don't know which chat you've been
I meant the chat between you and I, like our
Oh, sure, yeah. Okay, that's fair.
text messages.
Right, so not as explosive a start this time around for Jelger. Often the most explosive starts with turn 1 Stitcher Supplier.
That's
to
right.
Fill up the graveyard.
Ooh,
Wow.
but look at this action.
Look at that
pair
pause
of
when
Vengevines.
he flipped over those 2 Vengevines. But he only played 1 creature this turn. Can he play a Hogaak?
Well, this is interesting. Yeah, it looks like he's going to put
But he has
Hogaak
to
on
exile the
stack.
Vengevines.
He does. He's decided that it's worth it to do so, though. Kiss those beautiful babies goodbye. That is a tough one there for Jelger, but the 8/8 so difficult to deal with for Juan. He's decided, look, I can block with this thing and I can start smashing with it too.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Look at Jelger with a much more reasonable start here of just 10 power on the battlefield on turn 2. Unfortunate to be milling those Vengevines off the top of his deck, but Juan's got a nice board too. This is really scary, right? We have 3 prowess creatures on the battlefield.
Yes.
Then Juan is now kicking things off here with a Manamorphose.
There's a lightning bolt as well. Ideally, he'd find a way to get that Arclight Phoenix into the yard. Does he have
he has
a
everything.
Faithless Looting?
He has Faithless Looting and Lightning Bolt. And keep in mind, if he casts Lightning Bolt and just targets the Hogaak, with Soulscar Mage in play, it'll be a 5/5.
Sweet. And that'll also get him back the Arclight Phoenix?
Right. Alternatively, he can just point the Lightning Bolt at Jelger's face and just try to burn him down here.
Yeah, depending on how big these prowess creatures get, the 5/5 and the 8/8 might be effectively the same, in which case he would just go upstairs.
Yeah, it looks like we saw Manamorphose into Faithless Looting into Lightning Bolt, most likely, unless he drew something. It looks like he drew Lava Spike. So
Okay, well,
same
easy
thing,
mode. Yep.
right? So now he's still just going to attack with everything because there's no lethal attack coming from Jelger's side. He gets to attack. Jelger's down to 12, and he's going to attack in for 15 this turn.
This is huge.
This is a turn 3 attack for 15.
This was Jelger playing conservatively, trying to get Hogaak on the battlefield, even in lieu of exiling 2 Vengevines, and he's still just taking a thumping.
11
Wow.
damage here.
Juan says, look, I can play this game too. How,
Right.
how about I smash you this time?
Well, and Jelger has to win this turn.
Yeah, he's... I don't
Juan
think he
has
can't get it for
Lightning Bolt
18.
in hand. Turn 2 Hogaak, not good enough.
Not even close to good enough. A huge turn for Juan José Rodríguez López.
2 more Vengevines, maybe? Is that the way to do this?
The other 2 Vengevines.
Right.
8, 12, 16, 17, 18. It would be exactly lethal. But it's not going to happen, and Juan strikes back, and we're going to go to a game 3 between these two. Oh, boy.
I mean, this is the way to do it. It's like, hey, look, your deck got to do its thing. Now it's my turn.
By the way, Juan, check out that T-shirt. Guild Pact pre-release. He is repping the old school.
Can appreciate that. By the way,
I'm
if
sure
you ever
Jelger
draft
can,
Guild
too.
Pact, make sure you're an Izzet.
Okay, good.
All the good cards.
Good tip, good tip.
Yeah. Get those Steam Core Weirds and Ogre Savants.
Jelger's like, I had a Hall of Fame career before Guild Pact came out, kiddo.
Yes, he sure did.
But that was Juan defending the home turf. Again, he is from Spain. We are in Barcelona. He says, not that easy. You're going to have to earn this one, Jelger. And these players are playing for top 8. 12-3 is the record for Jelger, and Juan is on 11-3, 11-3-1. I guess we can take a quick look at the deck list from our side table here. Here's Ben White's, who we saw a few minutes ago. He's playing Hogaak with Hedron Crab in the main deck, and no copies in the main deck of Leyline of the Void, which we did see some builds play.
Yeah, I think a lot of the players who kind of expected lots of Hogaak chose to go with Leyline instead, but those are kind of the flex slots in the deck. Of course, you have your core of the Supplier, Gravecrawler, Bloodghast, Vengevine, etc., but you have about 6 to 7 slots that you can use for other cards. Hedron Crab and Altar of Dementia, it seems, is what both Team Ultra Pro and Channel Fireball chose to go with in this tournament.
Christian Hauck kept it real here. He is playing Mono Green Tron. And it's all the usual suspects here, Paul. Blast Zone is the latest addition to the deck, but as we mentioned before, perhaps the biggest addition is the London Mulligan.
Right.
You know, not a card, but...
Absolutely. And one thing that I want to note is that the newest flavor of Mono Green Tron that a lot of players have been opting for is with the inclusion of Karn the Great Creator. However, the decks that we've seen having the most success are the Mono Green Trons without small Karn. Both, you know, Thoralf Severin and Christian Hogaak are just playing stock Mono Green Tron from 2 years ago.
That's insane. Yeah, those Relic of Progenitus, of course, came back into favor here. It's played those for a really long time, but they look great now.
Right.
Perhaps part of the reason why this deck has been performing well, at least, you know, as you mentioned, Thoralf Severin in the top 8 already.
Right.
And Christian Hogaak, well, technically still alive, at least is locking up a pretty solid finish.
Right.
Here.
If one of these players wins, they're very likely to be in the top 16.
That's right. Looks like players are just about ready. We can get underway. Just got to get the word down to them. And we're underway.
And Christian pulling out that. Oh, and he has Leyline of the Void in the sideboard along with those 3 Grafdigger's cages. So probably another reason why Christian is having some success in this tournament.
He came prepared. Now, this was a turn 1 Thoughtseize here from Ben White's. It's going to take away Expedition Map. Now, you see 2/3 of Tron already in hand for Christian. So with a little bit of luck here, he could find another copy of Map, or maybe even just natural Tron the good old-fashioned way. The question that I have is, what can Ben White's do here facing down this Leyline of the Void? He's going to need to answer that before any explosions can start.
Yeah, oftentimes what happens is you just end up trying to beat them down with a motley crew of 1-mana 1/1s and 2/1s, and sometimes it gets the job done. It really depends on the deck that you're playing against. You know, Christian did choose to keep a hand that didn't necessarily have Tron. Well, no, he actually did keep a hand, but Ben had the Thoughtseize.
Yeah, he did have.
So he had it
Tron
all
lined
actually.
Up. Yeah, he really did. But the Thoughtseize, of course, knocked that off balance. Now the question is, can he get it back on track while the getting's good? Because what we've seen traditionally is that this Leyline of the Void, sure, it'll do stuff for a while. It won't necessarily stay on the battlefield. The Hogaak deck does bring in answers for it. In the meantime, though, look at this. Blood, Gas, and Vengevines just getting thrown into exile here.
Look at this Stitcher Supplier Carrion Feeder beatdown. Let's go. And
you see that?
Thoughtseize not protecting the top of the deck.
No.
And Christian going to be running out this Expedition Map.
That's right. Now, he would have preferred it.
Right.
Turn prior. This will set him back a turn, but still, he'll be happy to have it.
It looks like he might be concerned about the potential for Ben White's to have a disenchant effect to kill the Expedition Map before he can sacrifice it. But I feel like if Ben did have that, he would have fired it off on Leyline of the Void.
Perhaps Force of Vigor a consideration for Christian?
Yeah, that is typically a one of.
Yeah. Just, it's a way he can lose both, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that is not the case here, because as you said, public enemy number 1 for the Hogaak deck is Leyline of the Void. If you're just tuning in and you haven't seen some of our segments at the news desk throughout the course of the tournament, that is the number 1 most played card in the field.
Yeah, Frank got me good when he asked me that question. He's like, hey, what do you think the most popular card in the format for this event is? And I was like, well, it's Faithless Looting, right?
Yeah.
He's like, good guess, but you're wrong.
Which is what I guessed too, by the way. I was also wrong. It was number 2, right?
It was number 2.
Okay, so we're not that far off. Still, the card that's above it is shocking.
Yes.
Well,
now Christian just, you know, he has it all. He's got the Tron, he had the Leyline, and he's going to be able to just run out a bunch of Wormcoil engines. So.
Yeah, he's also got access to Karn here.
Yeah, so Operation 1-mana 1/1 beatdown plan has been completely stifled here. Not going to get it done.
In kind of embarrassing fashion, right?
Oh, yeah.
A 6/6 lifelink death touch versus a 1/1 and another 1/1 that can't block. Okay. Not sure I like how this lines up here for Ben White. It looks like it's just all about
Wormcoils for days.
Triple Wormcoil. Can he cast 2 this turn?
I think he has a tower in hand. So if he has 2 Wormcoils in hand, he can play them all out.
He can play both this turn.
Wow. Don't
no,
think
he's
Ben's
going to go for Karn instead, it looks like.
Okay.
And this is big Karn, by the way. Karn liberated. Wow. Aggressive, just taking out the carrying feeder, sending that thing packing. And that leaves Ben Whites with the grand total of 1 power
This is going to get the
1
concession.
toughness. That is disgusting.
2 worm coils and a Karn. I mean, there's just nothing you can do. That's it. I mean.
Wow. The sideboard plan really worked this time. We have seen the Hogaak deck able to power through some of the sideboard options, but this Leyline of the Void has well and truly crippled Ben White's entire game plan. And in the meantime, Christian Hauck finding that expedition map has led to just explosive action, and that's going to do it here. No outs for Ben White, and Christian Hauck picks up the win for a super solid finish here at Mythic Championship 4. He is going to finish at 12-4. Now, that doesn't mean that he's literally unable to make the top 8, but his chances are very slim. It also depends on Adriano Moscato versus Jiying Zhang. And it looks like they're actually out of the feature match area here. So we do have a result on that, and I'll look that up for you.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. If Adriano Moscato wins the match, it gets really interesting because one person at 12-4 will be able to sneak into the top 8. And Moscato did have the best tiebreakers for people with an X4 record coming in. So he's going to have a really good shot if he was able to pull through and win his last match. All right, Jelger on the play this time. Might have been able to pull out that previous match if he was on the play. See if he can go turn to Hogaak for 3 straight games.
He's piecing things together deep in the tank, and you can certainly sense the tension on Juan on the other side. Again, Spanish Magic player here trying to work his way into the top 8 in Barcelona would be amazing. By the way, Jiying Zhang did win.
Okay,
that was a winning in, so this is clean. You are looking at the last slot in our top 8 being decided here between these 2 players, and it is the winner of this game who will do it.
And it looks like Jelger mulligan down to 5 in this final game.
He's got Crypt Breaker to kick things off. If that dies, it doesn't. Soulscar Mage hits the battlefield here for Juan, and he's going to pass the turn back. No wonder Juan looked so worked up. He knows he has Jelger on the ropes already just from that mulligan to 5. So few resources to work with for Wiegersma.
So Jelger did find a Faithless Looting. If he can Faithless Looting into Stitcher Supplier, he might be able to run out that Hogaak, but it looks like he's just content discarding probably the Hogaak or leaving up the Abrupt Decay, and also giving himself the option of just making a zombie here with this Crypt Breaker.
Right, so he has Abrupt Decay or Crypt Breaker activation.
Hey, look, it's the same hand from game 2.
Hey, this is that explosive start that Juan Jose needs to get the job done. So that means that we're going to see Hogaak hit the yard off of Crypt Breaker. That's going to make a zombie.
And then we're going to see a Faithless Looting. So now Jelger has the necessary creatures in play to be able to cast Hogaak if he can get enough cards into his graveyard.
He's got to get that Del Fuel lined up here. The question is, would it be good enough anyway? That is super scary what you see on the other side of the battlefield. The ideal turn 1 into turn 2 for Juan is this right here, because next turn there could be fireworks.
All right, this has got to be a really nice Faithless Looting. Oh, he needs a land.
No, he found a Wayfinder and a Carrion Feeder, but not the land, Paul. Though that said, he has a Vengevine in his hand.
Right, but he won't be able to play 2 creatures this turn.
No.
Once he found that Seder Wayfinder, had he found the land, I think he would have been able to cast the Hogaak.
Brutal. Particularly if it's a fetch, but yeah, it's going to be Abrupt Decay and Vengevine hitting the graveyard here for Jelger. Boy, Jelger put himself in a position to draw into top 8, ended up getting paired down against Juan, and is now very much up against it.
So this is going to be a huge turn from Juan. Let's see how many spells he can string together to see how much damage he's going to get in this turn. something like a Lava Dart or just any collection. I mean, this deck was built around maximizing on these 1-mana prowess creatures.
Yeah, he needs some action to get going because his hand is a little clunky right now. It's 2 copies of Light Up the Stage. Oh, he did find a Lava Spike.
That was really, really big. He can go Lava Spike, which will then make the Light Up the Stages cost 1 mana and make it very likely for him to find additional spells.
So there's a Lava Spike, and there's a Light Up the Stage. Jelger says, you got it. And it is land and another Soulscar Mage.
So he's got 3 3/4s on the battlefield. Curious to see if he's just going to play out that Soulscar Mage or just play the Light Up the Stage to have an army of 4 5s this turn instead.
Boy, Jelger so close to another career top 8 here. He won game 1 very easily. He was so close, but Juan José Rodríguez López said no, and he smashed him in game number 2, and it's starting to look very good for him in the 3rd game.
Yeah, I wonder if he just wants to spectacle out this Light Up the Stage again, because next turn he won't have the ability to be able to play it for a discount. He has the card in hand. I mean, he has the mana, so next turn he can just hard cast it and still play a 1-mana spell if he draws it. And looks like that's what he's looking to do here instead. Just attack for 9 and just play out that last Soulscar Mage. Next turn, if you draw a burn spell, Light Up the Stage is cheaper. If not, you can still cast it. And Jelger just going to put in a block here and then probably tap all 3 of his zombies, draw a card, and try to get a Hogaak into play, but it might not be enough facing 4 prowess creatures.
That's right, and you know how explosive that can be. If you were watching game number 2 with us, you saw an attack for 15. Ugh, awkward. Jelger with the Leyline of the Void drawn there. Not what he wants to see at this point. All of his problems are on board. He can't even cast the thing. That was just a complete blank.
So he really needs Juan to whiff on that Light Up the Stage.
Yeah, he does. Ooh, there was Faithless Looting off the top, though, for Jelger.
Yeah, I think he's going to start with the Satyr Wayfinder here.
He's got to chain these together, try to hit a land.
Right. Okay,
there it is.
So that's the land.
And it's red.
To play Faithless Looting. Going to get the Bloodstain. It doesn't really matter. One of those fetches. Although if he doesn't have a basic mount, if he did have a basic mountain, he'd want to get the Bloodstained Mire.
Juan says, which one did you get? All right, Polluted Delta. And now we're going to see Hogaak hit the battlefield. So this, of course, is one of the primary game plans for Jelger.
And
getting
a Vengevine
Hogaak on the battlefield. The question is it too late? Yeah, that is a Vengevine as well.
That's 3 blockers. That is 3 blockers. So this was a very, very big turn from Jelger. I don't think he's going to attack here. I think he's going to try to play it safe. I mean, he can I guess attack with the Vengevine maybe. Because you also just can't sit still and do nothing, as the mono red deck will just eventually draw enough burn spells to kill you. So Jelger does have to weigh this. You know, do I want to attack this turn? Do I want to keep things back? Wait 1 more turn before I start, amass an army and attack? And it looks like he wants to wait.
Yeah, he will have the Satyr Wayfinder as an additional chump blocker the following turn, so he's just going to sit back. Tormod's Crypt, 1 turn too late there for Juan. So both players drawing their reactive spells at times really not when they want. Is he hard casting?
Oh, by the
Light
way,
Up the Stage?
He has to. But keep in mind, if he spectacled the Light Up the Stage in the previous turn, he would have been able to play Tormod's Crypt and prevent Vengevine and Hogaak from entering the battlefield.
Wow, he figured, well, I won't have any mana anyway.
Exactly.
Oh. Well, we'll see if that comes back to bite Juan, because Jelger has really started to get things rolling in his direction.
Juan.
Does he have any attacks? Wow, there's a 5th prowess creature, triple Monastery Swift Spear.
And Tormod's Crypt is an additional trigger.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Triggers prowess.
So that would be 2 spells for the 3 creatures from top to bottom, and the 2 Swift Spears on the bottom would be 2 3s.
But I think Juan just passed the turn back. Yes, critical there. Jelger Wiegersma can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief, though he is facing down quite an army.
And I like not running out that Tormod's Crypt, because at this point, Jelger's already gotten all the value that he can out of his graveyard. So he doesn't want to play it out. Instead, he wants to save it to trigger prowess for this 5 creatures in play. had he spectacled that light up the stage, he would have been such a huge favorite here.
Yes, he absolutely would have, but that is not what he chose. Now he's going to take 8 from Hogaak. As you mentioned before, Jelger does not have the luxury of sitting around and hiding behind his creatures here. He has to try to get Juan dead because it could take one flurry of spells and Jelger could be easily dead in a turn or two here.
Definitely. And Jelger, I mean, one of the important things here is, you know, he's at 10 life. And a lot of the burn spells in the red deck deal damage in increments of 3. So he has to really think about whether or not he wants to sacrifice that polluted delta.
So it looks like he's going to sacrifice Hogaak to the Carrion Feeder and then cast Satyr Wayfinder and then recast Hogaak. He wanted a vigilant Hogaak, if you will.
Right.
Which is pretty clever. I was actually looking at the feeder and wondering why Jelger wasn't attacking with it. And, you know, it had 2 power. You know, Juan tapped out is pretty safe to get in for the 2 there.
Right.
Also represents 10 and 10, so it really had some application. But Jelger putting on a show here and showing me exactly why he didn't do that. He now has Hogaak on blocks. What is he? What did Juan find?
That's a Faithless Looting off the top here for Juan. Doesn't have a lot of cards here, but, you know, let's say he finds some Manamorphoses and then maybe some burn spells to get some of those creatures on the board off the battlefield. He might be able to string something together here. That is 5 prowess triggers. What does he find? What's that card next to the Monastery Swiftspear?
Gutshot.
Gutshot, okay.
So Gutshot can kill a blocker, add 5 power to the battlefield plus the Tormod's Crypt. This is getting
interesting. So
lethal-ish very quickly.
Right, so he can kill the Satyr Wayfinder, then he can get in with 2 unblocked creatures. We have Faithless Looting, Gutshot, and Tormod's Crypt. That's 6 damage.
Oh, did he discard the Crypt?
He did discard the Crypt.
So he's going to crack his Horizon Land. What did he find?
Light up the stage.
Whoa.
Whoa. But this is interesting, though, because if he wants to cast the Light Up the Stage, he needs a Gutshot Jelger.
Yes.
Which means he won't get a blocker off the battlefield from the Satyr Wayfinder.
Also, it's going to cost him 2 life. He's trying to leave as much mana as possible to finish off this game right here and right now. He's down to 10.
And he has played his land for the turn. Let's see what he finds here off the Light Up the Stage.
Light up the stage, and Jelger goes, yep.
Right.
That looks pretty good from here. And he finds Manamorphose, and he can't cast that, but a mountain as well.
And he can't cast that either. Yeah, he's played a land for turn. He played the Sunbaked Canyon and sacrificed it.
Is it not quite enough? He did leave that Wayfinder on the other side. Remember, he needed to go upstairs. Otherwise, there would have been 1 fewer blocker.
Yeah, and this is not going to be enough. Only one creature will get through. That Vigilant Hogaak play by Jelger, huge.
So clever and really adding up. And look at that, Juan has passed a turn back. He will be forced to block here probably. Jelger Wiegersma on a mulligan to 5. And he's found Faithless Looting. What can he get?
Some ley lines that he's probably going to pitch.
Yeah, 2 ley lines in hand are going away, so he's upgraded, but unfortunately it was only to a land.
Jelger certainly attacking here with Hogaak, seeing if he has additional attacks lined up here to try to force lethal.
Jelger's lining up some serious attacks here, Paul.
But keep in mind, Jelger doesn't have any burn spells, but he does have to deal with that 8/8 Trampler.
I'm telling you, that 2 damage from the Gutshot adding up huge here because it means Hogaak gets through any other of these creatures connects, and Juan is dead. He has to block all of them just to fall to 2.
Yeah. Hogaak gets through. He blocks all the other creatures, goes to 2. Now he's left with just 2 Soul Scar mages and needs to find a way to deal 9 damage through the 2 Satyr Wayfinders. He does have Manamorphose in hand, along with Faithless Looting in the graveyard.
Brutal position here for Juan José. It looked like after he cast the light up the stage, he may have had the game in hand, and he passed a turn. He didn't have it. And now his board state is crumbling.
He needed a burn
much
spell.
like the Necropolis on the other side of the battlefield. That's right. But now Jelger at 9 with 2 blockers. Juan is going to have to do serious work.
Is that another Manamorphose?
It is.
All right, so those Soul Scar mages will be big.
They will be definitely very big, but he's going to need to find ways to get those blockers out of the way.
Right, so he's going to need to cast the Manamorphoses and then find 2 removal spells to get those Satyr Wayfinders off the board. But keep in mind, there's also a Faithless Looting in the graveyard.
He has a Mountain in Exile that he can play this turn as well, so he has a land drop guaranteed.
Was that another Manamorphose?
I think that was actually another Manamorphose.
That's a
that
lightning
was
bolt.
a lightning bolt.
Yeah, and that's another
a
Manamorphose. Wow, okay, so
all Jelger can do is stare at the battlefield and say, did I do enough?
I mean, Juan's just going to have to fire off this Manamorphose, right?
That's right. That's what he's going to have to do.
See how many more spells he can string together here. And these Soul Scar mages are getting gigantic.
They are. He needs to get them up to 5. They're already at 4 after this Manamorphose.
If he finds another burn spell, he just kills the Wayfinder.
It was another lightning bolt off the top.
Are you kidding me?
For Juan José Rodríguez López.
2 Manamorphoses off the top. Now he goes bolt on the Satyr Wayfinders, and this is a lethal attack.
Unbelievable top decks for Juan José Rodríguez López.
Spells.
And you can see that Jelger sees the writing on the wall. He's like, not like this. He's going to sacrifice it to the Carrion Feeder. That is 4 triggers. They're both 5 power. All he has to do is kill the other one.
This is incredible.
Unbelievable.
There's no card draw in this mono red deck. He needed to just find 2 burn spells off the Manamorphoses he found.
He ended up streaming 3 of them together to get triggers on these Soul Scar mages to get them up to lethal and finding the burn spells that he needs. And there's Lightning Bolt to kill the last Wayfinder, and Jelger can do nothing but look on. He looks over at his life total and says, this one has slipped away. Juan José Rodríguez López from Spain is attacking for lethal. Oh, what a tough beat for Jelger Wiegersma. He can't believe it, and he offers the handshake, and the local is in to the top 8, locking up that last seat. Unbelievable. From mono red, he was able to chain through enough spells to not only get those Soul Scar mages big enough, but also to remove not 1 but 2 blockers and get the job done. Unbelievable turn from Juan.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless. He needed to kill both of those things. Chaining the Manamorphoses meant that he also got the Soul Scar mages big enough. Jelger was at 9.
That was 3
He needed to play 4 spells. 2 of them had to be burn spells to clear the way for lethal.
Unbelievable, and what a way to make top 8 for Juan, and what a devastating heartbreak for Jelger Wiegersma. That's going to do it for our Swiss coverage here today. We've got a top 8 announcement and more news from the news desk, but first, these messages.
I'm here with Alex Haim from the team from the comic book store, currently sat in exactly 8th place in the team series. Now talk us through what that already has meant for your team as we come to this Mythic Championship in Barcelona.
Well, we managed to sneak in there with my top 4 finish last Mythic Championship. And if I'd come 8th place, actually, we wouldn't have gotten in there. So I was playing that match for my team to all get free flights to this tournament, since we were already qualified, but free flights not bad, especially Barcelona in the summer. And so it's already like, you know, over $1,000 benefit for everybody already for the team series. And we're hoping to snag one of those top 2 spots with a strong finish here and maybe even get way more out of it.
Now, talk us through who we've got on the team for this event. There's 6 of you working together. Who are we working at?
All right, so there's obviously me. There's fellow Pro Tour champion Wyatt Darby. There's Mattia Rizzi from Italy. There's there's Andre Strasky, Czech superstar.
Of course.
I was trying to think of a thing to say about everybody, but there's
There's a lot of talent on this team.
There's a lot of talent.
A ton of talent. And the formats, I suspect from looking at your t-shirt that you have some feelings about how the formats are looking for you. Enjoying Modern with this Modern Horizons update?
Yeah, no, it's fun, and I like the draft format. And Modern, Modern's always just do some powerful thing that you like to do, right? At this time, it seems like a lot of people are maybe playing Hogaak, and I'm just gonna still combo them out with my 3 lands,
When your 3 lands tap for 7 mana, all of a sudden, it's not just the Hogaak decks that are doing something unfair in this format. Now, admittedly, on 93 points, which is where you are currently at, I believe, you have got a little bit of work to do, but you had a top 8 at the last Mythic Championship. There's still everything to play for here as we get to Mythic Championship 4 in Barcelona.
That is the view live here in Barcelona, the fabulous Spanish city that never fails to amaze. And boy, oh boy, have we had fun down the stretch. Jelger Wiegersma is down there waiting for a top 8 announcement that he will not be part of. My goodness gracious me. Rich Hagen alongside Maria Bartholdi and Eduardo Sajkalik. Heart-pounding for multiple reasons. Maria, first of all, of course, it is Team GLHF and commiserations to Jelger, and sure that must have been a bit of a
I know we were on the edge of our seats watching that game back there, but honestly, I would have been tremendously happy with either of these players making the top 8. A great story from the guy who did, and what an incredible, dramatic finish to that match.
It's just to reset it again. It's like, okay, I have to block, I have to survive, and then I have to either get a lava dart, since Manamorphose, Faithless Looting, and Lava Dart would get the job done, or somehow chain a bunch of Manamorphoses and 2 removal. Oh my, that's exactly what happened.
Now, I can tell you that if you want to avoid the stress of round 16, the correct answer is to get to 12 wins a bit earlier in the tournament next time. Sean Gifford did that. He's feeling very happy. He's on the floor with Tim Willoughby.
Thank you, Rich. Yes, I am down here with Sean Gifford, who some of you may know as Blinky MTG, where he streams on twitch.tv. And yeah, for you, the last couple of rounds, not so stressful as you were able to lock up those wins a little bit earlier. But I know we were both watching that last match on tenterhooks because that was one of your opponents from earlier rounds, right?
Yeah, I got paired down against him in the previous round, and he was not able to draw against me. And I was able to win game 1, and then I re-offered the draw, and he took it then. I guess he thought his odds were better against an unknown opponent in the final round versus me after having just beaten him. So I was rooting for him to win again because I hope to play him in top 8, actually.
Yeah, it was a fantastic finish, but we will worry about those results later on because I want to talk about the deck that you brought to the table and the results you've been able to put up this weekend because it's been quite the weekend for you. What did you bring this weekend?
So I brought Eldrazi Tron. I crunched a lot of numbers, watched a lot of replays, played a lot of Magic leading up to the event, and I thought Eldrazi Tron was well positioned. I didn't pay enough attention to Hogaak, I think, but I think it's still a reasonable matchup.
And in terms of how things went between you and Hogaak, obviously lots of people have been talking about Hogaak all weekend. What was your record against Hogaak this weekend?
Yeah, they call it the Hogaak Mythic Championship, and I don't really know what this Hogaak card everyone's talking about. The only Hogaaks I've seen all weekend was the Hogaak that I first picked in the first draft of day 1. That's the only one I ever saw in play. I never played it in the modern rounds, and that's probably why I'm standing here before you now.
20% of the field, it's by no means guaranteed that you're going to play against any particular deck in any round, and dodging it, one way of doing it, but it's not as if there's no chance that you'll see it. We've still got a top 8. That top 8 does have, I think, looking at the way things look at the moment, maybe some Hogaak in there. And your list, it can do a lot of things. Obviously you can make a lot of mana on turn 7, but the Eldrazi Tron list, that's the one that's got Khan the Great Creator.
Yeah, basically, Karn the Great Creator gives you the ability to lock out some Hogaak players in game 1 by getting a ensnaring bridge. I think the metagame has evolved in the last 24 hours, and some Hogaak players have answers to an ensnaring bridge game 1. But yeah, you have the tools to get there. You have things like Chalice of the Void to turn off their 1-drops. So there is a plan. We'll just see if it comes to fruition if I have to play it in top 8.
All right, well, Sean, you're going to have a fun moment of hearing the cheers of fellow Canadians cheering you on as you make this top 8, and then hopefully a good night's sleep because we'll be seeing you tomorrow.
Thanks so much.
Fantastic stuff. Yeah, good luck to Sean Gifford tomorrow. Now, we're not in the business of overhyping things when there is no hype to be had. We believe we know the top 8 because we think it's a clean cut. 37 points upwards was enough because the way it worked, Zhang Jiang won his last round to go from 34 points to 37. And then because just the way it worked out, it looks to us like 37 is the clean cut. So we're going to take a walk through some of the people we believe are in the top 8. Once it becomes official, you'll see the top 8 announcement, of course. So let's put a deck up on the board for you. Manuel Lons with Urza Thopter Sword. So Eduardo, what's this deck about? Manuel Lons, there we are.
So this is, again, sort of the Meek was unbanned a year or two ago, and it was the old kind of extended format combo. Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek, 1 mana, make a 1/1 Thopter, gain a life. With Urza, Lord High Artificer, you can tap that sword again and again, or those creatures to generate infinite blue mana and do kind of crazy things with it, on top of getting infinite life and making all the creatures you want.
Okay, that sounds quite acceptable. I wonder why he played such a thing.
Well, let's find out, because we can ask Tim Willoughby, who's on the floor, to ask him.
On the floor with Manuel Lins, and the deck that you played, it's got some of the most over-the-top big things that any deck in Modern can do. You can get infinite life, you can make infinite creatures, you can get infinite mana, you can play your entire deck in a single turn. Is it that you wanted to go super big, or was it more just that you wanted to find the blue deck in the room? What motivated you, what spurred you on to choose this deck for this weekend?
I thought there wasn't a lot of good choices for this tournament, so that was my opinion. I tested with Izzet Phoenix before Hogaak came out, and after Hogaak came out I thought I cannot play Izzet Phoenix because it's not a good deck anymore. And so Emanuel Gershenson told me about Urza, and I think it was a good choice to play it.
I would say so, because, I mean, you had things locked up fairly early. This last couple of rounds, you've been able to take the intentional draw and watch on as people fight out for a slot to potentially play against you in this top 8. Now, I want to ask a little bit about the combo itself. When you've got Thopter Foundry, Sword of the Meek, already you can make all sorts of creatures. How often did you feel that you had to fully go off and have Urza in play as well?
I mean, there are matchups where you need it, and there are matchups when you don't need it. Like against Tron, you need most of the times the combo, because then you can also destroy every permanent on the battlefield from the Tron player. Against decks like Chant, you can win with the Sword Foundry combo alone.
And are there any decks that you think, going into this top 8, you particularly want to play against, or maybe that you want to avoid?
I wanted to play against humans all the times, but I never found humans, so...
We heard it here first. The humans are dead, but Manuel Lentz, very much alive. He will be in our top 8, and we'll get a chance to see more of him tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Tim. Thopter Sword combo, an awesome deck that I hoped would show itself off in our top 8, and here we are. It will indeed. All right, let's take another deck that we think, look at a deck that we think will probably make it into the top 8 in the hands of Sean Gifford. I'm talking about Tron. Here it is. All right, give me this one, Eduardo.
So essentially here, not the Tron deck. Green Tron is more going over the top. This one tries to go more in the middle, using Matter Reshaper, Thought-Knot Seer, and Reality Smasher as kind of these mid-range beaters that can, play a more fair game of Magic, but then not as disruptible. You get to play these cards a lot earlier, and you get the potential of Eldrazi Temple, allowing you to power out these threats quicker. Plus, not many 1-drops in the deck, so Chalice of the Void on 1, very good and powerful in this deck. The biggest addition for me, though, is that Karn the Great Creator and all the lovely tools it has in the sideboard.
Karn the Great Creator plus all of the tools from the toolbox. That's why we call it a toolbox card. Do you like it better than, your average typical Tron?
I have never been a fan of this thing, but that said, it can be well positioned especially when Chalice for 1 is very strong. For me, it's about having that Chalice for 1 be relevant and kind of having the creatures be relevant.
Okay. We have a top 8 announcement. We have top 8 players standing by. Let's find out who will be joining us tomorrow to try to make Magic history at Mythic Championship 4. welcome back. Welcome back to the studio here in the news desk. I think you may have spotted a couple of technical difficulties. So
I thought it was an interpretation on a new silent movie.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Contemporary art.
Something like that. We will carry on talking about the top 8 as we get ready for that top 8 announcement. Sorry about that. Best laid plans of mice and men. Let's move on to Alvaro Fernandez Torres. Now, he has a deck that, honestly, a lot of us were not expecting to see this weekend, particularly Hardened Scales, Eduardo.
Oh yeah, Hardened. This is my deck in Modern, so this is so we're great. But honestly, even I would have had trouble playing this deck because of Karn the Great Creator, which we saw in Eldrazi Tron, and the resurgence of that deck in the face of Hogaak was kind of a difficult choice, especially because Tron also plays Karn the Great Creator. Turned out, Karn the Great Creator was not so much played in the versions of Tron that had success. So this deck can really use Inkmoth Nexus to fly over for lethal damage. There's a lot going on. This is probably the most complex deck in Modern.
What about Force of Vigor? That's another card that Frank Karsten had mentioned was one of the reasons he was so scared to bring this deck to the table if you were playing this weekend.
Yeah, Collector Roof Rebuild, there was a lot of horror shows in Modern Horizons. I was not the happiest bunny with that set. No.
The happiest bunny. Okay, yeah, Hardened Scales. So pretty cool to see that deck make our top 8. Let's take a look, if we can, at another deck, this time from Toralf Severin. And he was playing Traditional Tron. Traditional Tron making into our top 8. You know, it's been around for a long time, and here it is.
Right, and Eduardo, I want to ask you about this because a lot of the time, you can move within a metagame by being exactly where you are. The metagame can move around you. That happens all the time. And everyone is trying to catch up to any given metagame. That's part of the deal because that gives you your edge. But sometimes the best way to do that is to do nothing and see things move around. Toralf Severin, David Brooker, Christian Hauk, all playing this Tron deck and all pretty much to success. It seems like, they found a good spot.
For the same reason that when I update my computer, I sometimes roll back the update. This deck decided to roll back to the previous version before Karn the Great Creator in order to have more sideboard slots for Leyline of the Void. And that was key. Being able to have more graveyard hate made the matchup that's traditionally very difficult much more manageable. And the London Mulligan rule is still around. That helps a lot.
Right, we talked about this all the time at MC London. Like, Tron has this major upgrade thanks to the London Mulligan. And here, it hasn't really been a talking point because of Hogaak and all that, but it's still true.
Yeah, and it's also not a talking point, a.k.a. not a target. That means that a lot of people, when they have to decide their sideboard slots, they go, well, I want more Tormod's Crypt, Surgical Extraction, Grafdigger's Cage. Tron's like, yeah, cool, great, sweet.
Go for it.
No more Ghost Quarters, no more fault. None of this is here to annoy me.
Yeah, and let's just check. This version of Tron still goes, it's turn 3, 7.
Yeah, pretty much. That's its plan. That's all it wants to do.
Right.
Sometimes that's just good enough, Rich.
So Toralf Severin with Tron, sometimes
that's good enough. 7 mana from free lands, yeah, that's sometimes.
sometimes sufficient. Let's take a look at David Mines. Now, talk about deck diversity. There's only one archetype that we have multiples of in our top 8.
Guess what? It's not Hogaak.
It's okay. It's okay.
You are correct.
It is great. It does have Overgrown Tomb, though.
True.
Which basically makes it a Hogaak deck. No, it's David Mines with Jund, the good old-fashioned Inquisition of Kozilek and Tarmogoyf and Liliana of the Veil and Surgical and Fatal Push and Thoughtseize. I mean, it's a greatest hits of generally making people miserable no matter what they're playing.
Yeah, and what I really like about this build, it's like the blue-white control decks, right? You put certain cards for certain matchups. I really like that this deck played 2 Surgical Extraction main as kind of a small push towards those graveyard decks. And, I can't have Life from the Loam in the Cycle lands, but Ren in 6 and Cycle lands is close enough. All the card advantage all the time.
I'm going to double dog dare you that maybe it's really time for the top 8 announcement. Take it away, Marshall.
Magic fans from around the world, welcome to the feature match area here in Barcelona, Spain. It is time for your Mythic Championship 4 top 8 announcement. In first place with 38 match points from Austria, Manuel Lentz. place, also with 38 match points. From Spain, Alvaro Fernandez Torres. In third place, with 38 match points, from Canada, Sean Gifford. In fourth place, with 37 match points, from Germany, Thoralf Severin. In fifth place, with 37 match points, from Australia, David Mines. That brings us to number 6. In sixth place, with 37 match points, from Spain, Juan José Rodríguez López. Just 2 spots left. Both of them have 37 match points. In seventh place, from Denmark, Martin Mueller. That leaves just 1 spot left. In 8th place, with 37 match points, from China, Zhiying Zhang. Magic fans, your top 8 for Mythic Championship 4.